Hi everybody, my name is Mark Savin and I'm the project manager for TMS Hospital Communication System, and I'm going to be walking you through our alpha release. So as you can see here, this is the login page where the users will be able to sign into their accounts. We currently have three users made, which are the administrator, nurse, and physician, and I'm going to walk through each one. So let's start with the administrator. Their token is 1 and their password is password. And just before I do anything else, I just wanted to mention that our passwords are hashed. So this ensures that the user's real password is not saved on the database for security reasons. So if I take you to our database for a moment and I go to login, you'll notice here that the token is 1, so this is for the administrator, and their password is actually hashed within the database. And that's the same for all passwords, for all users. So if I log in, this will take us to the administrator homepage. And so the administrator's role is to essentially create users for the application and to just kind of keep track of them. So there are 4 different buttons here for create patient, create nurse, create physician, and create visitor. I'll just quickly show you the forms. So this is, if you fill out this form and submit it, it'll create a new patient in the database. Same goes for nurse. Here's their form. And then we also have physician form. So again, if you fill out this information and submit, it'll add a new physician to the database. And we haven't done any work for the create visitor yet, just because it wasn't a part of the alpha release, but it'll be near the end of the project. So if I go to create patient account, I'm going to start filling out the fields here. One thing I want to mention is that if you miss a required field and try to submit, you're going to get an error warning telling you have to submit the required fields. So if I just put in a random name and I just do this, this would be a number. So upon submission, sorry, this can't contain a number. So upon submission, this will be populated into the database. So we'll quickly show you. So in the patient account, you'll see there's no user with this name. So if you submit it and then refresh the database, it now populates. So this is just showing you that we can submit forms and it'll populate in the database. That's about it. And then I can go back to the home page. Oh, and just one other feature, maybe really quick. If I start, entering some fields and then I want to cancel this form, I can just hit cancel, and that's it. It'll take me back. So that's about it for the administrator page. The other thing I do want to mention is that all of our pages are responsive. So again, if I go here, for example, and I resize the screen a little bit, so it doesn't matter what device you're working on, because the form is going to fit any screen size because we've made it responsive. So you can see here, even though the screens become really narrow, the form is still presentable. And then of course you still have your drop down menu, so you can still log out if you like. Click X. And maybe I'll just show you another page. So the administrator page, if we minimize it, you can see all the boxes stacked nicely on top of each other, and as you grow the page, the buttons fill the screen nicely. So that's what it means to have a responsive web page. So now moving to the physician, if we log in with physician 123, their password is also password. It'll take us to the physician homepage. At this point, we haven't done a whole lot with physician. There is a view SBAR history. So let me explain maybe. Physician is, their role is to take care of patients. So they'll have a list of patients they're in charge of, and then they can view the SBAR notes that the nurses fill out for these particular patients. The SBAR history note button here doesn't wire to the page yet, but I'll show you that when we get to the nurse homepage in a moment. The last thing I want to show you is just the search bar. So you can imagine if the table is really long, the physician doesn't want to search manually, so they can just type in the patient they're looking for. So if they're looking for James Bond, they can type it in here. So that's basically it for physician. So the last user I want to show is the nurse. So if we type in 100 and go password, again, all their passwords are password. It'll take you to the nurse homepage. Similar to the physician homepage where we had a table of users, it's kind of the same thing. But so these are all the patients that the nurse is in charge of. And so there are a couple of options we can do here. We can either view an SBAR history, or we can update or essentially create a new SBAR. So if we do this one first, update required, this is an SBAR note. So essentially the nurse would be at the patient's bedside, filling out this information, typically, ideally on a mobile device or on a tablet. So this way they can just input the information once and submit it, and then they don't have to worry about it again. It's quick and it's easy. So that's supposed to help with the productivity for nurses in the workplace. And I can quickly show you that that when we submit the form here, that this populates. So I'm just going to jump to the part where the form is complete. Okay, so I'm back from filling out this form, and just before I submit it, I want to show you that this entry doesn't exist in the database. If I click refresh, nothing's going to show up. So now if I go back to the form, I'm going to submit it. So it's been submitted. Now if I click refresh, it should appear. And there we go. So the SBAR note was successfully added to the database as well. So that's all for the SBAR note. So if I go back a page, the last thing that nurses can do is view old revisions of SBAR histories. So they'll go here, and so this is the SBAR history note page. So these are all the SBAR notes filled out for a particular patient. So it's basically a log of all the health information for this patient. So for this patient, Carol Lee. So this nurse can look at all the past health conditions for Carol Lee. And then there's this physician contact card. It's still in development, but essentially what's going to happen is, because every physician is in charge of a particular patient, the physician that will appear here is the one that was most recently in charge of this particular patient. So if there's any medical emergencies or problems, the nurse can click on the request contact and send in a notification to this doctor to inquire something about this patient. And so the notification is a part of the beta release, but we'll have that done. So that's it for all the users. And so, yeah, thank you for listening.